Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something fundamental. Life is a battleground. It's not a simple stroll through the park. It's a fierce, chaotic arena where your mind, your soul, and your character are constantly tested. Every day you face forces, call them demons, call them chaos, call them the shadow within that seek to pull you down. They whisper lies, spread despair, and paralyze you with fear. They are relentless, cunning, and merciless. But let me make one thing very clear. You have the power to confront them, to tame them, to rise above them. The first step in killing your demons is to name them. You have to look them square in the eye without flinching. Is it resentment? Is it fear? Is it laziness, arrogance, or self-doubt? Whatever it is, stop pretending it's not there. Stop avoiding it. Daniel is fertile ground for demons. When you avoid the truth about your weaknesses and struggles, you allow those forces to grow unchecked, feeding on your ignorance and your unwillingness to confront reality. But confrontation is not enough. You must also take responsibility. And I mean full responsibility. Stop blaming your circumstances, your past, or the people around you. Yes, life is unfair. Yes, you've been hurt. But the moment you hand over the reins of your life to external forces, you lose the power to change. Responsibility is the antidote to chaos. It's the moment you decide, this is my battle and I will fight it. And how do you fight? You fight by creating order out of chaos. You fight by building structure, discipline, and meaning into your life. You wake up at the same time every day. You set goals, real goals, not vague wishes. You develop habits that strengthen you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Why? Because discipline is armor. It's the shield that protects you when those demons try to sink their claws into your mind. When the voice of self-doubt starts to creep in, you can say, no, I've done the work. I've earned the right to stand here and fight. Now, let me tell you something important about fear. Fear is the favorite weapon of your demons. It freezes you, makes you second-guess yourself, and keeps you small. But fear is also a compass. It points directly at what matters most. If you're afraid of something, it's often because it's the very thing you need to confront to grow. So don't run from fear, lean into it. Treat it as a challenge, as an invitation to step into your potential. And let's not forget the importance of honesty. You cannot kill your demons if you are lying to yourself. Lies breed confusion and darkness. They cloud your vision, making it impossible to see what you're really up against. Brutal honesty is a sword. It cuts through the noise, revealing the core of the problem. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes, especially if your voice shakes. Finally, understand this. You are not alone in this fight. The battle against your demons is deeply personal, but it is not solitary. Look around you. There are others struggling, others fighting their own battles. Be someone who helps, not someone who drags others down. Be the light in someone's darkness. By lifting others, you also lift yourself. That's how you build strength. That's how you build resilience. That's how you make yourself a force to be reckoned with. So here's the deal. The demons are not going anywhere. They will wait for you in the shadows, testing your resolve, trying to pull you back into chaos. But every time you confront them, every time you take responsibility, every time you fight with discipline, honesty and courage, you grow stronger. You move closer to the person you were meant to be. Kill your demons, not just once, but every single day. Because in that struggle lies the essence of life itself. And in that struggle, you find meaning. To overcome internal struggles, the first and most essential step is to identify and acknowledge them. This is not as straightforward as it might seem, because many of us spend much of our lives avoiding the very things that hold us back. It's uncomfortable to look directly at what's wrong, our fears, our doubts, our flaws, and so we bury these things under distractions, excuses, or superficial solutions. But ignoring them doesn't make them go away. In fact, avoidance allows them to grow in the background, often manifesting in subtle but damaging ways: chronic procrastination, low self-esteem, anxiety, or strained relationships. Identifying your inner struggles means shedding the protective layers of denial and distraction and confronting the uncomfortable truths about yourself. The process starts with self-awareness. This is more than just a vague sense of knowing you feel bad or unsettled. It involves actively observing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Why do you feel stuck? Why do you react to certain situations the way you do? What patterns seem to repeat in your life, and what might be fueling them? These questions demand courage and a level of introspection that many people find difficult. It's much easier to focus on external problems, things that are out there, things you feel you can blame on someone else or circumstances beyond your control. But the reality is that the struggles inside you are the ones that dictate how you perceive and respond to everything else. Acknowledging these internal challenges is not the same as wallowing in them or labeling yourself as broken. It's about being honest enough to admit what's going on without judgment. For instance, If fear is holding you back, name it. Don't mask it with vague justifications like I'm just not ready or it's not the right time. Call it what it is, fear. If resentment or bitterness is eating away at you, don't disguise it as indifference or cynicism. Be truthful with yourself about the anger you might be carrying. Naming your struggle strips it of its invisibility. It pulls it out of the shadows and into the light where you can start to deal with it. This step also requires you to reflect on how these struggles impact your life. What are they costing you? Perhaps fear is preventing you from pursuing opportunities, or self-doubt is keeping you from expressing your true potential. Maybe unresolved guilt or resentment is damaging your relationships, or laziness and procrastination are stopping you from building a better future. By connecting your inner struggles to their real-world consequences, you gain a clearer understanding of why it's so important to them. This understanding fuels your motivation to make changes, even if those changes are difficult. Another vital part of acknowledging your struggles is accepting that they are a normal part of being human. Everyone has their demons. You are not uniquely flawed or weaker than others. The difference lies in whether you choose to face them or let them fester. Facing them may feel overwhelming, but it is also empowering. It puts you back in control of your life. The act of naming your struggles is an act of reclaiming power over them. It doesn't mean you'll immediately solve everything, but it's the first and most necessary step in the process of growth. Identifying and acknowledging your struggles is not about self-pity or dwelling on the negative. It's about being honest with yourself so that you can take meaningful action. When you recognize what you're up against, you can start to strategize. But without that initial clarity, you're fighting an invisible opponent, one that knows you better than you know it. So take the time to look inward, to name your struggles without fear or hesitation. This act of self-awareness and honesty is the foundation for everything else. Once you've identified what's holding you back, you can begin the journey of overcoming it step by step. Taking responsibility for your life is one of the most profound and transformative actions you can undertake. It requires a shift in mindset, a deliberate decision to stop viewing yourself as a victim of circumstances and instead as the architect of your own existence. This is not about denying the hardships or injustices you may have faced. Life is often unfair, and many of the challenges you encounter may be entirely out of your control. However, what you can control and what truly defines your character is how you respond to those challenges. Responsibility is the key to that response. It's about owning your actions, your decisions, and the direction of your life, no matter how difficult the path may be. When you take responsibility, you begin to understand that blaming external factors, whether it's other people, the past, or society, does little to change your circumstances. Blame feels satisfying in the moment because it absolves you of accountability. It allows you to shift the focus away from yourself and onto something or someone else. But that sense of relief is temporary and hollow because it leaves you powerless. Blame is a trap that keeps you stuck. By contrast, responsibility empowers you. It says, I may not have caused this situation, but I will take ownership of how I deal with it. In doing so, you reclaim control over your life. Taking responsibility also involves acknowledging the role your own choices play in shaping your reality. This can be uncomfortable because it forces you to confront mistakes you've made or patterns of behavior that have held you back. It's tempting to rationalize these things, to tell yourself that they were caused by circumstances beyond your control. But deep down, you know that some of the problems you face are a result of your own decisions or your failure to make decisions. Accepting this truth is not about self-blame or beating yourself up. It's about learning from the past so that you can create a better future. Responsibility also requires a commitment to action. It's not enough to simply acknowledge your role in your own life. You must also do something about it. This means setting goals, creating plans, and following through on them, even when it's difficult. It means holding yourself accountable for the promises you make to yourself and others. Responsibility is not passive. It's an active process that demands effort, discipline, and persistence. It's about recognizing that while you cannot control every aspect of your life, you can control how you show up each day, what choices you make, and the attitude you bring to your challenges. Importantly, taking responsibility is not a one-time decision. It's an ongoing practice. There will be times when you falter, when you feel overwhelmed by the weight of your circumstances. In those moments, it's easy to slip back into old habits of blame or avoidance. But responsibility is about resilience. It's about getting back up, reevaluating your actions, and recommitting to the path forward. Each time you do this, you build strength and character, and you reinforce the understanding that you're capable of shaping your life. Taking responsibility also opens the door to growth and self-improvement. When you own your actions and decisions, you gain the power to change. You begin to see challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to learn and evolve. You start to recognize that your potential is not fixed but fluid, and that with effort and determination, you can overcome even the most difficult circumstances. Responsibility is the foundation of this growth because it gives you the courage to face your challenges head on and the motivation to keep moving forward. Ultimately, taking responsibility is about embracing your role as the author of your own story. It's about realizing that while you may not control the hand you've been dealt, you do control how you play it. By choosing responsibility, you choose empowerment, growth, and the freedom to shape a life that reflects your values and aspirations. Discipline is the foundation upon which strength and progress are built. It provides the structure necessary to confront life's chaos and navigate its challenges with focus and purpose. Without discipline, even the best intentions fall apart as the lack of consistent effort leaves us vulnerable to distraction, procrastination, and the pull of our most unhelpful impulses. Discipline is not a trait you are born with. It is a skill that must be cultivated, refined, and maintained through deliberate practice. It is the act of choosing what is necessary over what is easy, of prioritizing long-term growth over immediate gratification, and of committing to actions that align with your goals, even when motivation wanes. Building discipline begins with small, deliberate steps. It doesn't require monumental changes all at once. The mistake many people make is waiting for the right moment or an overwhelming surge of inspiration to begin working on their goals. But discipline is not about waiting, it's about doing, regardless of how you feel. It starts with simple acts, getting out of bed at the same time every day, dedicating 10 minutes to an important task, or saying no to a distraction that offers short-term comfort. These small victories accumulate, creating momentum and reinforcing your belief in your ability to control your actions. Discipline provides clarity in a world full of distractions. Without it, your energy becomes scattered and your efforts become unfocused. You start chasing short-term pleasures or allowing immediate discomfort to dictate your choices. But when discipline is present, it acts as a compass, guiding your actions toward your larger purpose. It enables you to say no to what doesn't matter and yes to what does, even if the path forward is difficult or uncertain. This focus not only makes you more productive, but also gives you a sense of fulfillment because you know your efforts are aligned with what truly matters to you. A key aspect of discipline is the ability to delay gratification. In a world where instant rewards are constantly available, it's easy to prioritize what feels good now over what will benefit you later. Discipline teaches you to resist this temptation to endure temporary discomfort for the sake of long-term gains. For example, choosing to study instead of scrolling through social media, or exercising instead of staying on the couch, might not feel rewarding in the moment. But these choices compound over time, creating habits that lead to lasting improvement and success. Discipline also serves as a defense mechanism against the inevitable obstacles and setbacks you will face. Life is unpredictable and challenges will arise that test your resolve. In those moments, motivation often falters. That's where discipline steps in. It's the habit of showing up and doing the work, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline doesn't rely on fleeting emotions or external circumstances. It relies on commitment and consistency. It becomes the steady force that keeps you moving forward, no matter how difficult the path may seem. Another important element of discipline is self-respect. When you follow through on the commitments you make to yourself, you build trust in your own quality. You begin to see yourself as someone who is capable, dependable, and resilient. This self-trust reinforces your confidence and encourages you to take on greater challenges. On the other hand, when you break promises to yourself, skipping tasks, making excuses, or giving in to distractions, you erode that trust. This can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and a sense of being stuck. Discipline protects against this erosion, creating a positive cycle of action, achievement, and self-belief. Ultimately, discipline is not about perfection. It's about persistence. You will falter, make mistakes, and face moments of doubt, but discipline teaches you to return to the path you've chosen again and again. It reminds you that progress is not linear and that the journey toward your goals is shaped by consistent effort, not occasional bursts of enthusiasm. Over time, discipline becomes a part of who you are, a habit so ingrained that it feels natural to act in alignment with your values and aspirations. It transforms you from someone who reacts to life's challenges into someone who takes charge of them, turning potential into achievement and chaos into order. Discipline is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. Fear is one of the most powerful forces you will ever encounter. It has the ability to paralyze, to keep you small, and to convince you to avoid the very things that could lead to growth and fulfillment. However, fear is not inherently negative. In fact, it can serve as a valuable guide if you're willing to understand and face it. Fear points directly at what matters to you. It reveals your vulnerabilities, your dreams, and the areas the most room to grow. By leaning into fear rather than running from it, You transform it from an obstacle into a tool for self-discovery and personal development. The first step in dealing with fear is recognizing its presence and understanding its source. Too often, fear is disguised as excuses or rationalizations. You might tell yourself, I'm not ready for that opportunity, or it's not the right time, when in reality, it's fear holding you back. Fear thrives in vagueness and ambiguity. It grows stronger when you avoid naming it or looking directly at it. To confront fear, you must first bring it into focus. What exactly are you afraid of? Failure? Rejection? Change? By naming your fear, you strip it of some of its power. You turn it from a looming shadow into something specific, something you can examine and eventually address. Once you've identified your fear, the next step is to reframe it. Fear often feels like a warning, a signal to retreat or avoid a certain situation. But more often than not, fear is actually pointing you towards something important. It's a sign that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, venturing into territory that challenges you. Growth does not happen in the comfort of familiarity. It happens when you push yourself to confront the unknown. Fear is the gateway to that growth. Instead of interpreting fear as a sign to stop, begin to see it as a sign to move forward. Facing fear requires courage, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. Every time you take a step toward what scares you, you weaken fear's grip on your life. It might be a small step, speaking up in a meeting, trying something new, or sharing your true feelings with someone, but each act of courage builds confidence and resilience. Over time, you prove to yourself that fear does not have to control you. You begin to see fear not as an enemy, but as a companion on your journey, one that challenges you to become stronger and more capable. Fear also teaches you about your values. The things you fear most are often tied to what you care about deeply. For example, if you fear failure, it's because you value success and achievement. If you fear rejection, it's because connection and acceptance are important to you. By examining your fears, you gain insight into what truly matters to you, and this understanding can guide your decisions and priorities. Fear, when faced with curiosity and courage, becomes a mirror that reflects your deepest desires and motivations. It's important to acknowledge that fear will never disappear entirely. No matter how much you grow, there will always be new challenges and uncertainties that provoke fear. But the goal is not to eliminate fear, it's to change your relationship with it. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, let it inform them. Let it be the nudge that pushes you toward the things that scare you, but also have the potential to transform you. Fear is not something to conquer once and for all. It is something to continuously engage with and learn from. Ultimately, fear is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define it. By recognizing fear, reframing it, and taking deliberate action in the face of it, you build a life of courage and growth. Fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a guide, leading you toward the experiences, challenges, and opportunities that will shape you into the person you are capable of becoming. Honesty is one of the most powerful tools for transformation, yet it is often the most difficult to wield. The truth is uncomfortable, especially when it requires you to confront the parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore. But the act of being honest, especially with yourself, lays the foundation for meaningful growth and change. When you avoid honesty, you create illusions about who you are, how the world works, and why you face the challenges you do. These illusions might make you feel better temporarily, but over time they become barriers that prevent you from addressing your struggles and reaching your potential. Honesty, on the other hand, clears the fog. It shows you the reality of where you stand, which is the only place you can truly start from. Being honest with yourself begins with acknowledging the truths you've been avoiding. This might include recognizing the ways you've fallen short, the fears you haven't admitted, or the responsibilities you've neglected. It's easy to build narratives that protect your ego. It wasn't my fault, or there was nothing I could do. But deep down, you know when these narratives are false. When you choose honesty, you strip away these excuses and face the unvarnished reality of your life. This is not an act of self-criticism or self-punishment. It is an act of liberation. By confronting the truth, you free yourself from the weight of denial and the confusion it creates. Honesty also requires you to examine your patterns and behaviors. Why do you keep ending up in the same situations? What role have you played in creating or maintaining the problems in your life? These are not easy questions to ask because they force you to accept that, in many cases, you are at least partially responsible for your struggles. But this realization is empowering. If you have contributed to the problem, then you also have the power to contribute to the solution. Without honesty, you cannot see this connection. You remain stuck in a cycle of blaming others or external circumstances, which only reinforces a sense of helplessness. Another crucial aspect of honesty is its relationship to clarity. When you are dishonest with yourself or others, you create layers of confusion. Lies, whether they are small or large, complicate your life because they require constant maintenance. You have to remember what you said, to whom, and why. Over time, this web of dishonesty becomes exhausting and unsustainable. By choosing honesty, you simplify your life. You don't have to keep track of falsehoods because your words and actions align with the truth. This clarity creates a sense of peace and stability, allowing you to focus your energy on what truly matters. Honesty also has a transformative effect on your relationships. When you are truthful, you build trust. People come to see you as someone they can rely on, someone who won't deceive them or hide behind facades. This trust deepens connections and fosters genuine understanding. At the same time, honesty may initially lead to discomfort in relationships. Telling the truth, especially when it involves difficult conversations, can be painful, but this pain is temporary and it clears the way for growth. In contrast, dishonesty creates long-term damage, eroding trust and preventing real intimacy. It's important to recognize that honesty doesn't mean being harsh or unkind. The goal is not to tear yourself or others down, but to create a foundation of truth from which growth can occur. Sometimes this means delivering difficult truths with compassion. Other times it means being gentle with yourself as you confront realities that are hard to accept. Honesty is not about judgment, it's about clarity, understanding, and the courage to face what is real. Ultimately, honesty is a practice, not a one-time decision. It requires ongoing effort and vigilance. You will be tempted to slip back into denial or to avoid difficult truths, especially when they challenge your sense of comfort or identity. But every time you choose honesty, you strengthen your ability to face life with integrity and resilience. You develop a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. And this understanding becomes the foundation for meaningful change. Honesty, though uncomfortable at times, is the path to freedom. It allows you to move forward with clarity and purpose, unburdened by the illusions and excuses that once held you back.